We have 6 planets in retrograde at the moment in the sky. That's a lot of retrogrades. How are you experiencing that? Aloha, everyone. Welcome back to my channel, Astrology Dome. My name is Galit, and today I'm going to talk to you about retrograde planets. What are they? What's their function? How long do they retrograde? And how do they affect our lives? Because they do. So in general, planets don't go backwards, really, in the universe. Nothing like that is happening. It's not a physical phenomenon. However, we humans, we view planets from our point of view, which is Earth. And it's an optical illusion kind of a thing where we see a planet going somewhere and then as if it's going backwards. It's not really, but from our point of view, we experience that. I'm not going to get into the science of how do we see retrogrades. You can look it up. I will go into how do we experience retrograde periods of each and every planet. And at the end of the video, I will give you the list of all the retrograde planets and dates for 2022. However, this video is good for any retrograde planet anytime because I will explain each and every planet's mode of operation and how it is changing when it's retrograde. One thing I'd like to make sure that you guys understand, there are 2 kinds of retrograde planets. One is the retrograde planets you were born with in your natal chart, in your horoscope. This will have a certain effect on your life. I'm not going to get into that right now. I'm only going to get into the effect that retrograde planets have on us as they transit through the sky, because planets keep transiting all the time, changing signs, changing aspects, touching upon our planets in our natal chart and creating all kinds of experiences for us. So let's go into that. I'm going to share my screen. So retrograde planets in transit. That means that planets are going their way, you know, they keep moving all the time. And then we experience them as going retrograde for a period of time. What are retrograde planets? Astrology views the planets from a geocentric, Earth-centered perspective because we live on Earth, and natal astrology requires a person-centered system depicting the space surrounding the birth of the person. So when we are born, the place that we are born in, the longitude and the latitude create a center, and we are that point in the middle, and we get an overview of how our chart looks. And those planets that were in retrograde will show up in our chart as retrograde planets. They'll have a little R next to them. A planet is said to be retrograde when it is day-to-day motion appears to be moving in the sky against the motion of the other planets. It's an optical illusion from where we stand. So it's not really true that the planet is going backwards. We just experience it like that. But because we experience it like that, it does have a different effect on us. So we live in a solar system, and in classic modern astrology, we refer to 10 planets. And out of those, only 8 can retrograde. So we have the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, of course, the moon of the Earth. This is the Earth and the moon, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. So we are a part of a system. The lights, the sun and the moon, are never retrograde. I want you to remember that. But other planets do spend some time each year retrograding. Now, let's talk about the definition of stationary retrograde or stationary direct. You probably have heard that already. So a planet is said to be stationary during the beginning and the end of the retrograde period. It is that time where actually the planet is moving. It's halting, it's moving slower, then it feels as if it is stationary, because for a while it will occupy the same degree. It may be for a long while, like example with Pluto, it will stay for a long time at the same degree, or a short while where it's Mercury and it will stay a day or 2 at the same degree, but it is stationary. So it does that in the beginning of the retrograde and at the end of the retrograde. And that day is important because that degree is being so sensitized, so highlighted. So if you have any planets in your chart in that particular degree, that will be an activation point, a strong activation point for you. So whenever you see planets that are retrograding, look for the stationary retrograde date or stationary direct date, and you will get the right degree to pay attention to. Okay, what is the retrograde period? It's really about us processing. It's about retracing our steps to experience and learn from the past. It is a time to resolve difficulties. It is time to tie in the loose ends. And that department where that planet is retrograding in our chart will be highlighted. So let's define that moment, right? When a planet is going retrograde. As I speak, Mercury is retrograding back into Virgo. So I have Virgo somewhere in my chart. It occupies a certain house in my chart. What house does it occupy in your chart? Because that Mercury retrograde in Virgo will help you tie loose ends in that particular life department, in that house. So whenever you look for a retrograde and its effect on your chart, go back and look at that department, that house, that sign is occupying, and you'll know what kind of experiences you are going to experience, because they will be related to that particular house where the planet is retrograding through. So this slide is all about natal retrograde versus transit retrograde. As we said, natal retrogrades are processes that are internalized and need to be, you need to become an expert in those processes in your lifetime. You have to upgrade yourself and learn those processes very well. Whereas a transiting planet, when it retrogrades, it will highlight a special place in your chart for a special period of time, where you'll get all kinds of experiences related to that planet and that house and that sign, but then it will go away. It is not a lifelong experience, versus natal retrogrades that are more of a karmic experience that your soul has chose to come here and master that retrograde planet, that sign that it retrogrades in, and that house and life department. And obviously the aspect that retrograde planet is creating with other planets in your chart. So planets have different periods of retrograde motion. And I'd like you to pay attention to that, because we have 8 planets that can go retrograde together with Chiron. It's 9. And they retrograde for a certain amount of time and a certain percentage of time of the year. So Mercury goes retrograde for 3 weeks. Each time it goes retrograde, it's about 3 weeks. And it does it between 3 and 4 times a year. Compared to Neptune that goes retrograde for about 5 months, and it does it once a year. So it is a different cadence. And so the effect of that particular planet will be either short-lived, Mercury, long-lived, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, the trans-Neptunian planets. They're always a long process. When they bring a change to our life, or any effect that they bring to our life, it is long-lasting. It is a period of time. It can last a few months. It can last a year. It can last a long time. So we get kind of a backdrop story with those trans-Neptunians, which are generational planets. That's why they're called generational planets, because they are affecting us as a collective. And we also, as a generation, have the same trans-Neptunian in the same sign. So as a generation, we bring in a voice, a certain vibration, a certain experience to this lifetime and this reality on Earth that we live in. So pay attention to the time that a planet is retrograde. How long will it take to move through a certain area of your chart, or how long will it take it to move through touching one of your planets or creating an aspect to one of your planets. So then you know if you need to anticipate for a long period of time or a short period of time of that transformation, because each time a planet is retrograding and it's touching one of our planets or aspecting one of our planets in our chart, we are moving through a different stage. We are transforming a certain part of ourselves and relearning, processing, assimilating, integrating some qualities of ourselves, taking it to a different level, usually a higher level of awareness and understanding. So planets in retrograde are usually a good time for reviewing, reassessing, redoing, renovating, repairing, rebuilding, relaxing, usually not so relaxing, more of recovering and reflecting, renewing, retreating, revisiting. You got the point, right? It's always going backwards to finish something, to realize something. So this is an evolution in consciousness. We always get out of a retrograde with a higher knowledge, with higher understanding of the processes of that planet and the part it plays in our life. So it's an important time. We actually need to embrace retrogrades because they let us a time for reflection and assimilation. Because we usually go, do. We get experiences and we experience all kinds of things in our life. And then we need some time to understand what was going on, right? It's time for reflection and understanding. So bless the retrogrades. Let's start with Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde for 3 weeks, 3 to 4 times a year. And those are the themes. No matter what sign or house, life department, Mercury will retrograde through, it will bring you the need to analyze situation and find ways to understand them. Obviously, it's going to be related to that sign that it's retrograde in, because that will be the style. So if Mercury is retrograde in Virgo, we are looking to find a system of efficiency to do things better, to sift through what's needed and what's not. If Mercury is retrograde in Libra, we will be concentrating on our relationship. We'll need to find solutions for situations that are coming up in our relationship, and so forth. When Mercury is retrograde, we tend to pay attention to the details. However, don't fall into only the details, because then you won't see the forest from the trees. When Mercury is retrograde, there is a need to connect to the big picture, not just the details. It's hard to do because Mercury will bring you the details and a lot of them, but try to keep the large perspective as well. Thought can be scattered and confused, especially in Pisces. Yeah, well, because of that tendency that Mercury has to bring a lot of details, we can get really confused. When we have too much information, that's not good. We don't like too much information. We're drowning in too much information. How can we see an overall picture so then we can know what the goal is? So that's why the scatteredness, because Mercury can bring you a lot of scattered information. How can you synthesize all this information into a coherent picture and then know what you need to do? Venus is retrograde for 6 weeks, every 1.5 years approximately. Venus is all about finding balance. Whenever she retrogrades, wherever she retrogrades, she wants to bring more balance into our life. So obviously it will be related to the sign. If she will retrograde in Leo, then she wants to bring you more love and more ways to love yourself and shine, right? It's a light on that department of life. If she'll retrograde in Pisces, maybe she wants to bring you more balance into between the spiritual world, Pisces, creativity, Pisces, and the mundane world, the physical, Virgo, detailed world, in how you relate to yourself on the mental level, Pisces, and the physical level, Virgo. So it's always in axis and always in balance. Obviously, Venus is about, it's our capacity to relate to others. And so the sign that Venus will retrograde in will show us the way, what kind of balance and how do we relate in this particular style of that sign. And it's basically learning to love and be loved, self-love first, healing relatedness patterns. We constantly are healing relatedness patterns, isn't it? But sometimes we go out when Venus is not retrograde, we seek relationship, we are relating, we are doing stuff with others, and this is how we experience relatedness. And then when Venus goes retrograde at a certain sign, a certain house in our chart, we get to see what it's all about, what kind of patterns do we have in relatedness, and what kind of patterns do we attract to our life from others, so we can work on our self-love and appreciation, and obviously values. It's all about really understanding what is valuable for you. Mars retrograde every 2 years for about 2 months, sometimes more. Mars is learning to take the right action, obviously related to the sign. So if Mars is retrograde in Aries, it's definitely about desire and how we take our action and how we get what we want and our male part. But if it's retrograde in Aquarius, then it's all about our friendship circle, right? About where do we belong, where is our tribe, and how do we get what we need from our tribe, and how do we create action between us and that tribe that we belong to, the group that we belong to? How do we take action upon understanding something higher knowledge, Aquarius? Mars' retrograde is also exploring action versus reaction, right? Mars can be very reactive in our chart. And Mars can be those programs that we've learned since our childhood on how to react to things. But do we have to be reactive in life, or should we be active? Those are two different things. When you're reactive in life, you're reacting to something that someone said or an experience you had, and it is igniting a certain response within you. So then you have the opportunity on a higher level of consciousness to realize that this is how you react and this is your reaction program. Maybe if you like that reaction program, keep it. But if not, maybe it's time to change it and take action in a proactive way instead of being reactive. Reactive is usually from an unconscious program that we are usually not conscious of its origin and why are we reacting this way. But if we keep being aware, we can always upgrade our reaction mechanism. Mars is also about learning passive versus aggressive. Mars can be very aggressive, and rightfully so. It's our defender. It defends our life. It is the warrior that is defending us. But should we be aggressive? Can we be between passive and aggressive, somewhere in the middle, and create the right action? Something to think about when Mars is retrograde. Obviously depends in the sign that it retrogrades, that would be the style it would wear, and in the house, that would be the experience arena where you're going to get those experiences coming your way, asking you about the way you react. And it's all about learning desire, about our desire. What is it that we desire in our life, whether it is sexual desire, which is Mars standing for, whether it is our aggressive desire, whether it is our male part, the yang part, the one that take action. What do we desire in our life, and how do we go and get that? It's a really good time when Mars is retrograde to learn about our mechanisms and our programming in doing that. Jupiter. Jupiter is retrograde for about 4 months every year. And Jupiter is the great benefactor, and it is teaching us about how do we expand, how do we grow in our life. Now, Jupiter is also our philosophy. And what is philosophy? So Jupiter is our belief system. It's all those beliefs that we have been accumulating through our life since we're children, and we have created a belief system. We're not checking into our belief system every day saying, hello, what do you believe in? And yeah, let's move according to that. No, we just live it. We know it. It's something that is coming natural to us. But does it really support us? Does it really support our growth, our luck, good luck, our expansion? And do we become happier, Jupiter bringing that optimism and happy feeling into our life? And if not, we should check what is going on with our belief system, because if we understand our belief system to really go down to the basement and see what we believe in, we'll find that sometimes we have some limiting beliefs, some negative beliefs that are not positive for our growth and our success and our abundance and our happiness. They're not, they're interfering. So maybe when Jupiter goes retro somewhere in our chart, it's a good time to look at that life department and our beliefs about that life department. Take that opportunity to focus on that life department that we have Jupiter transiting through and realize what is our belief system in that house and life department, because it's important. This is how we react eventually, right? Jupiter would lead to Mars reaction. Saturn. Saturn is retrograde about 4 months every year. And Saturn is karmic. Yes, it's true. You know, when we signed up to come here to Earth, and our soul development had decided that we'll have Saturn somewhere in our chart. And that Saturn's position is important for us. We need to master our Saturn, no matter what. It is where we learn responsibility. It is where we learn past conditioning that we need to realize and we need to master them. So the sign, house position, and definitely the aspect, especially if you have any aspects that are major aspects into your luminaries, sun and moon, or personal planets, you need to master that. And it's not an easy task because Saturn is all about restrictions. It's about all kinds of controls. It's about feeling that we are not adapting that and we want to show up as an authority in that department, but we don't know that department yet. We're learning. So all the past conditioning we're bringing into this incarnation and all the past limitations that we have experienced will show up in this lifetime as limitations in the beginning, but then we will turn those limitations into gifts. It's a process. I'm not saying it's an easy one, but it's doable. We're all doing it, whether we like it or not. So let's do it with awareness. The more aware we become, the easier the process is. So when Saturn is retrograde, especially in an aspect to any of our personal planet, we may feel blockages, limitations may come up, all kind of obstacles may come up. It's not an easy retrograde, but it's definitely going to take us when it's done, when that retrograde is done, Saturn return, first one, second one, we are totally in a different level. We are becoming masters, an authority, knowledgeable, wise, right? That's why Saturn is called the wise. So when Saturn is retrograde somewhere as a transit and it touches our personal planets, pay attention to that period of time. It is an important period for you. What is it that you need to do? If you know and you pay attention, you become aware, it's easier to stand up to the task and master that and become proficient, become a wise person in that department of life. So we are pushed to take responsibility and mature. Yeah, Saturn is asking us to mature. Take responsibility, do your part, and mature. And we are pushed to create a new security structure, definitely so. Saturn wants us to feel secure, but sometimes in our life, the old structure doesn't work. So we have to, like a snake that is shedding its skin, we have to shed our old skin, sometimes letting go of an immense amount of security that we have been collecting through our life. People get divorced, sometimes people lose something, move to a different place, change their career, major events are happening. Or maybe on the good side, people get married, they have a baby, still responsibility in a big time. So we're pushed to create a new security system. We're starting kind of a new cycle in upgrading our security. Uranus. Uranus is retrograde for about 5 months a year, and Uranus is the agent of change. It is always introducing change into our life because Uranus is the opposite of Saturn. If Saturn wants us to feel secure and be in a certain box and create that security system where we can live and feel comfortable with, Uranus says, no more. Let's change that and help you grow. Uranus is bringing us growth, but usually through disruption of the old. It is moving away from the old. So the old is usually Saturn. That's the representative of the old, our karma. And we are creating a new karma each life. We're creating new experiences. We are changing Uranus. We are changing what we've known, and we are creating new pathway, new journey for ourselves. So it brings us into high-level realizations. That's why Uranus is connected to high-level realizations, because once we go through a path that we've never walked before, we are creating new knowledge for ourselves. Then, of course, Uranus is also the need to discover the truth about our authenticity. We come here with a certain structure of a certain soul, and we are authentic. There is no one else that is like us. Yes, there are people that have similar qualities, but no one is us. We bring something very unique, like a thumbprint. We have a soul print. So in order for us to discover what that authentic soul wants to do in this lifetime, we need to connect with our Uranus. So when Uranus goes retrograde, this is the time where we realize, where we can process and we can reconnect into that place where Uranus is retrograding and perhaps it's doing some kind of aspects into to other planets in our chart, so we can wake up and see who you are really in that department. It's a wake-up call. Neptune is retrograde for about 5 months a year. And Neptune is all about that no boundary space. It is our connection to spirituality, to our higher self. It is the highest inspiration of them all. That's why it's so related to creativity, because we are kind of downloading through Neptune, through an osmosis process. We don't have to think about it. It's just there. We're connecting to the matrix of the universe, to the great universal field, and we are downloading inspirations and creativity. It's learning about compassion. It's about love. It's the highest form of love. It's connecting with your higher self. And it's sometimes a Neptune retrograde, a Neptune transit will uncover hidden truth, because sometimes we have to deal with some sort of escapism that we have, whether we are addicted to something, whether we don't want to see something, in denial. You know, we all have our denial parts. Maybe our 12th house, 8th house, whatever planets we have there. Maybe we stash them away in the basement. We don't want to see something. Neptune retrograde can wake us up to that and see something, uncover something that we didn't want to see before. Overall, Neptune retrograde can be a very creative time in your life. Depends what aspect and which planet it will contact during that retro. I know people that have written books and created beautiful movies during a Neptune retrograde. And I know some people that went into rehab during a Neptune retrograde. So it really depends on your chart makeup and structure. Pluto is retrograde for about 5 months a year. Pluto is that planet of transformation. You all know that. And it will bring a major transformation to your life. I remember Pluto transiting my ascendant, then my moon, and all kind. It is a major transformation. But hey, you can do it. You have come with this chart, this particular chart arrangement to this life, because you can handle it and you can grow from it, not just handle it, you can thrive with it. So yes, it will uproot you from a lot of things. When it is retrograde in your chart and it is touching one of your personal planets, you're in for a major transformation. But your soul wants that. You want to transform that area of your life because it is stagnant. And Pluto on its highest level creates immense amount of soul growth. It is taking something that is stagnant already from the past, all kind of past programming and structures that we have created and have become crystallized and are no longer serving us in a positive way. And it is helping us transform them into a better structure, a better place for ourselves, better awareness. So obviously it is powerful, but when it is retrograding in our chart, especially if it creates hard aspect to us, then we may feel powerlessness. So it's all about this axis of power and powerlessness. We want to feel powerful, but in order to feel powerful, we have to heal the powerlessness places where those places are in ourselves. So that's what Pluto brings to our awareness, that ability to heal that powerlessness. It's also about issues of control and out of control, because if we want to feel powerful, we always want to be in control. But we find out that in life, we are not always in control. And then we need our Neptune to trust, right? To cultivate trust. And Pluto helps us to go through that process of understanding what trust is. So sometimes Pluto retrograde in our chart would bring us fears, trauma, and shadow. They would surface so we can heal them. Pluto wants us to heal, major healing. After a Pluto transit, you have done major work. You're in a different place. You can accept yourself with the trauma, with the shadow, with the fears, because now you're aware of them. You don't have to hide them in the basement anymore, and you can heal them. So before I move into showing you the retrogrades for 2022 or whatever is left of the year, I'd like to remind you to subscribe to my channel. That's the way I can grow my channel. And thank you for watching, each and every one of you. I appreciate you being here. If you want to know something, ask me questions. I'm always open to hear from you, and I will respond. So let's move into the part where I show you the transits of the retrograde planets for 2022. Mercury is going retrograde 4 times in 2022, quite a lot, right? So January 14th at 10 Aquarius until February 4th at 24 Capricorn. That had passed for us. Pluto went retrograde on April 29 at 28 degrees of Capricorn until October 8 at 26 degrees Capricorn. We are still experiencing that. The second time Mercury went retrograde was May 10 at 4 Gemini, and then it went direct on June 3rd at 26 Taurus. Then Saturn went retrograde on June 4th at 25 Aquarius, all the way until October 22nd at 18 Aquarius. We're still experiencing that. Then Neptune went retrograde on June 27th at 25 degrees of Pisces until December 3rd at 22 degrees of Pisces, and we're still experiencing that. Then Jupiter went retrograde on July 28th at 8 degrees Aries, all the way to 28 degrees of Pisces, where it's going direct on November 23rd. We're still experiencing that. Then Uranus on August 24 at 18 degrees of Taurus, all the way until January 22nd, 2023, where it's going to go direct at 14 degrees of Taurus. Oh, we're still experiencing Uranus retrograde. Then the third Mercury retrograde is from September 9th to October 2nd. September 9, Mercury went retrograde at 8 degrees Libra, and it will turn direct at 24 degrees of Virgo. We are in the midst of that Mercury retrograde. And then Mars is going to go retrograde on October 30th, all the way to January 12th, 2023, from 25 degrees Gemini until 8 degrees Gemini. Check this out. Where is it in your chart? And the fourth time Mercury will go retrograde this year would be on December 29th at 24 degrees Capricorn. Remember, Pluto's territory, until January 18, 2023, where it's going to go direct on 8 degrees Capricorn. So I stopped sharing my screen. That was quite a lot of information. And bless the retrogrades. Don't think it's a bad time. Don't think it's a terrible time, negative time. Please, retrogrades have gotten such a bad reputation. We just cannot go all the way forward, do. We need time for integration. So how are we going to take that time? Retrogrades are coming and helping us take that time. They're helping us stress the point. They're giving us enough information and enough illumination to a certain point in our chart or a certain point in the sky for us to get the message. Sometimes the message is really big and we need time to digest that, to process that. You can do it, and it's a good time to realize something about yourself, to learn, to upgrade, to move to a higher level. Whenever a retrograde is done, you are not the same person that started that retrograde. You have evolved to the next level of your soul evolution. It's a journey after all. So thank you for watching. I love seeing you here. And as always, enjoy today and become the best version of yourself today and every day. I will see you next time.